Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm working on the original fat PS2. Although I own several PS2 Slims, a couple of which I've repaired on the channel already, I've been wanting to get my hands on the fat PS2 for a while. The fat PS2 is more versatile when it comes to modding the system. It has a built-in hard drive bay so you can run games directly off the hard disk, and even though it's bigger and bulkier than the Slim, I think it has a more commanding presence and I personally like the aesthetics a little bit better. This was advertised as a parts unit that powers on and reads discs, but the controller ports aren't responding. There was a single grainy photo in the listing and a brief description that reiterated the controller ports weren't working. The seller of this listing accepted my offer of $28 free shipping for this console. There was no mention if any prior repair attempts had been made, so I was really happy when I received the unit and found that the warranty sticker was actually still intact. I have the unit hooked up to my capture card to test it out, and flipping the power switch in the back lights up the red standby LED. The unit turns on as soon as I press the power button, and I've muted my capture card so that we can hear the system. The fan's running surprisingly quiet given how dirty and dusty the system is. And as expected, the system doesn't respond to the controller. I thought I'd give player 2 a try just to see if the behavior was any different. And to my surprise and delight, player 2 was actually working fine. I'm off to a great start. The listing said controller ports, plural, are not working. The fact that the problem's isolated to player 1 potentially narrows down the scope of damage and might make for an easier repair. And we're gonna need to swap out that dead clock battery. Off camera, I noticed the optical drive was struggling a little bit, so I'm gonna see how long it takes to start up a game. Okay, that's going to be my baseline, 22 seconds from the moment I close the tray until I see the PlayStation 2 logo. I'm using the cleanest PS2 disc that I own to eliminate any potential issues that a scratched up disc might cause. I don't think this is something that the seller necessarily concealed. If you're not familiar with the system, you might not even think there's anything wrong with that boot up time, but we'll need to take the drive apart and see if there's anything we can do to improve those speeds. As much as I hate to break the warranty seal from a collectability standpoint, it's always a great sign knowing that you're the first person about to attempt to repair. You find all sorts of nasty surprises on prior repair attempts, mismatched screws, damaged components, horrific soldering work. It just adds to the list of things that you have to address and repair yourself. So the first thing I'm doing is inspecting the controller board ribbon cable. I'm looking for any signs of damage, corrosion, oxidation. I don't see much, maybe a tiny amount of oxidation, but for the most part all these pins look good. So I shift my attention to the controller board itself, and if you're very observant you might have already noticed something, but I hadn't yet. I'm taking a closer look at the connector and examining the solder joints on the back of the board. I'm looking for any sign that the pins are fatigued or broken, but I don't see anything. And a couple of minutes later, it finally caught my eye. One of those latching pins or springs is bent all the way backwards on port 1. It's very apparent now that I'm reviewing the footage in high def, but to the naked eye, hiding behind all that dust, it didn't immediately pop out. This is a bit of an unusual fault to have one pin like that bent backwards, and I'm thinking to myself, surely there's more going on here, this can't be it. And the funny thing is, this pin doesn't even do anything electrically. I looked up a pinout of the PlayStation controller, and as far as I can tell, its only job is to latch the connector in place. I was worried I'd bend it too far and break it, so I took my time and I used a second tool for some leverage. Alright, getting close, not quite there yet. And after about 5 minutes, I was pretty happy with how the connector looked. I'm going to use some contact cleaner to get rid of any contamination that might interfere with the controller working. So I shower both sides with the solvent and I use a brush to agitate the solution in there. Alright, before I do anything else in terms of repairs, I'm going to reconnect the board and see if that's made any difference. And would you look at that? I'm not sure if I should be feeling disappointed that this wasn't more challenging to repair, or if I should just be happy that I got what looks to be a great system for a smoking deal. Anyway, if you guys have seen my work, you know we're not even close to being done. I want that DVD drive running smoother. We practically need to do a full teardown to get to the socket where we can swap out the clock battery, and the system's caked in dust. This is one of those systems where you want to keep track of where you took your screws out from. There's a lot of screw sizes to keep track of, and on some of the smaller ones it can be hard to tell them apart. I'm not swapping the thermal pad on this particular unit, but some 1mm pads should be a suitable replacement if you want to swap yours out. And once you finally tear the whole system down, the clock battery finally reveals itself. Let's see what we can do to refurbish that optical drive. The plan is to dust everything off, clean the gears, belt, and the rails, apply some new lithium grease, and give the laser a gentle wipe down with some IPA. I make sure to clean out any old grease before reapplying to give all the moving parts the best chance of running as smooth as possible. I'm going to gently rinse off the drive belt with some warm water, and I'm not going to go too crazy with the grease here. I want to get a little bit on the teeth of those gears, but I don't want it touching the drive belt. And pay attention the belt's not twisted when it goes back on. If it is, make sure you guide it so it goes back to being straight. I want to make sure the thermal pads are making good contact, so I give the CPU and GPU a bit of an extra cleaning with some IPA. Alright, one final task before I put on the top cover and close her up for good. Before refurbishing the drive, it took 22 seconds from the moment I closed the tray until the PlayStation logo appeared. I'm going to go through the same exercise with the same disc and see where we are now. Wow. 15 seconds. I was expecting an improvement for sure. I don't know if I was expecting such a drastic improvement. I can already tell the drive's running quieter. It's not squeaking back and forth trying to read the disk. This is not a scientific experiment or an A/B test, but restoring these systems is not all about solder and flux. You have to clean them and lubricate moving parts. The fan's not going to be working as hard when there's good airflow, and the laser is not going to be struggling to dance around when the gears and rails are all clean and greased up. And the icing on the cake, a little bit of plastic restore to make the system look as sexy as you remember taking it out of the box 20 years ago. I hope you guys enjoyed the restoration. There's some mod work in this guy's future, so you'll be seeing this handsome boy again. Until then, take care guys, and I will see you in the next video.